If you're still handling objections at the end of your sales calls, you're killing deals without even realizing it. And that's why deals feel solid during the call, but then they suddenly turn into, let me think about it, the second you drop the price. Now, after closing over $8 million across thousands of sales calls, I noticed something weird with my best calls. On my highest earning calls, I wasn't even handling objections at all. And that led me to build a system that completely changed how I sell. And yeah, it's gonna get you a higher close rate too. So here's what most closers do. You run through a discovery, you drop the price, and then you wait for an objection to appear so then you can overcome them. I was preventing them from even appearing in the first place. And when I started teaching this system to my students, I saw the same results, and they repeat themselves over and over and over again. Like Jonathan, who went from $8,000 to $35,000 per month in commissions in just 4 months. And Peter, who went from $15,000 to over $47,000 in just 3 months. Once you see this, you'll realize why handling objections is already too late and exactly what to do instead in order to explode your sales. The first thing we really need to dive into is why just sitting back and handling objections is just fundamentally broken in the first place. So the first thing you need to understand about objections is it is a belief. There's a belief that is holding them back, and it is your job as a salesperson, as a closer, to help shift their beliefs to help them get whatever it is they want, right? They came here with a problem, you solved that problem, so you want to align their beliefs to best solve the problem, which means they need to overcome whatever these objections are. Now, the issue is with traditionally is it's more playing defense. So the longer you go on and you have a conversation with somebody, the more comfortable and more confident they are going to be in that way of thinking. So if we wait until the very end to really start to address a lot of these limiting beliefs, they've got more and more confident, number one, so they're going to be stronger at the end. And then number two, because there's more fear involved, because you just dropped the price, there's less trust, they're also going to be harder to overcome. So it's really going to hit it on two fronts. They're going to be more confident in this belief, and they're going to be more fearful to actually be able to overcome this belief. So this is why we don't want to just wait to the end to address it. Because if you get an I need to think about it, it means you lost it 15 minutes ago. It's because there was underlying signs that you just weren't able to address in the actual sales call, and they're not actually being open with you to tell you what the real objection is. No bueno. So this approach is going to keep you stuck. Now, can you get to the point where you're closing 20, 30%, or even higher when you just focus on like, hey, I'll handle all the limiting beliefs at the end? Yes, you can. But ultimately, I don't give a fuck about people who want to get to 20, 30%. I want to talk to people who want to get to 70, 80, 90% of close rates. And in order to get to that point, you need to be able to address these beliefs before they get strong. That way you can gain more authority, and you address these beliefs before fear is even in place to begin with. So elite closers who are making over $50,000 a month, they don't just handle objections, they prevent them. And if objections do come up at the end of the call, they're much easier to overcome. You don't have to go into all these objection handling loops and reframes, because if you think about beliefs like a table, you've already taken out 3 of the legs. So the last leg is just the last little bit you need to get on the end of the call. So this happens during discovery, not at the end of the call. So don't wait until the end of the call to actually handle these beliefs. You want to do it throughout the entire call. So now that I said that, you're like, Christian, how the fuck do I do that, right? I'm glad you asked, because that is the next part. Here's the pre-handling framework. Okay, so to solve this problem, I developed a 4-step system that I call the pre-handling framework. Okay, and it's designed to address the concerns during discovery before they turn into objections at the end. Here's how it works. So first and foremost, we need to be able to identify that there is a belief that needs to be pre-handled. You need to listen for patterns in discovery, whether they talk about decision-making, investment beliefs, past failures. The best predictor of future behavior is always going to be past behavior. Most people are patterns, right? They repeat the same patterns over and over again. So if you can identify the patterns that they've been living their life by, you're going to be able to get in front of these objections and shift the way that they're viewing their patterns as not as something that is good for them, but it's something that they need to shift if they want to get what they want. So the easiest question that you're going to ask in order to get this is going to be, hey, what's preventing you from doing something in the past? If you ask them, hey, what's prevented you from doing something in the past? They're going to tell you what's prevented you from doing something in the past. And then once we understand that there's something that has prevented them, Now, they've come to you and they've had this problem for however long. You need to know how long they've had this problem, number one. And number two, how long have they been looking for a solution? But if they come to you, let's say, for example, you're selling a biz op and they've wanted to start their own business for the past 5 years and they've just been looking into, starting an AI agency for a month. Well, why did it take them 4 years and 11 months to even start to look into a business model? You see how there's a disconnect between what they want and how they're acting. This entails that there is a belief that is holding them back. There is an objection that is going to come up if it's not addressed. Now, once we understand that, we need to understand and clarify. You need to get them talking about it early when they're not defensive. So, for example, when you get a certain belief, we need to get like, hey, what do you mean by that? Where does that come from? Get them to actually expand on this belief because yes, we use all the same words, but what people mean by words is going to be vastly different depending on the people you talk to. So you need to really drill down what they actually mean by their words, because not only does this make their thought process clear to you as a salesperson, this also makes it clear to the actual prospect. You'd be surprised. People have beliefs that are not really founded in much. And when you actually get them to articulate what they believe and why they believe it, they'll start to see the holes in it themselves. And that makes it so much easier for you to start to shift it. And if you get them to actually talk about it, that's probably the first time they really think about it because people think by talking, right? And the biggest thing when it does come to understanding and clarifying these beliefs is you need to get good at understanding and clarifying, but also shifting external things internal. What do I mean by that? So if I come to you and I'm like, hey, I wanted to start a business and you sell like starting an AI marketing agency, just off the top of my head. And I'm like, hey, I wanted to start a business for the past 5 years, but I haven't had the time in order to do so. But for this past 2 weeks, now I do have the time. Why would I not want to accept that? Well, I'm telling you that the outside world has controlled my decisions for the past 4 years, 11 months, and 2 weeks. Which is a very, very victim mentality. If the outside world is to blame for why I haven't done what I needed to do, why I'm not living the life that I need to live, then there is no amount of things you can give me that will help me change that. Because let's say next week or next month or whatever it is, I'm going to go back to the state where I don't have time. Well, this means now I never get any of my goals because it's external to me. It's not internal. So it's not about the time you have, the external. It's about how you make the time and what you do with the time you do have. That's an internal thing. So you need to get people to understand that what's actually holding them back is internal. It's internal beliefs. It's not about the money you have. It's about your resourcefulness to get the money. Whatever it is, you need to be able to get external things and get them to be more internal. And that way they can actually take responsibility for it, because if they're not responsible, you can't help them. So once we actually get them to take responsibility and for it to be internal, that's when we actually reframe the belief. So what is a reframe? Understand something. When somebody has a belief, they're looking at it through a certain frame of the world. This is what they're really doing. Like, I have this belief, therefore it equals this. For example, before, I didn't have time, therefore that equals I can't put in work to start a business. That is the belief. That is the frame I'm looking at the world in. Now, if I, as a salesperson, I get them to take an internal, but also I need to shift the frame which they're viewing the world. I need to shift the belief. Now, the easiest ways to shift the belief are going to be 2 tactics that are found in NLP. This is changing the meaning and changing the logical levels. I would say changing the meaning is going to be the absolute easiest thing, which is just basically, hey, I don't have time, therefore I can't get what I want. I'm changing the meaning of, well, I don't have a lot of time equals I need to make use of the time I have, so I need to start right away, right? Like, I'm changing the meaning of what it is. Like, I'm not disputing the fact that they don't have time. I'm disputing the fact of what that actually means. I want to shift the meaning of that. Changing logical levels is you're talking about, not having time, right? You're talking about external things. I want to shift the conversation to talk about, well, who you are as a person. I'm changing logical levels, right? I'm leveling it and I'm talking about something else that is much more fundamental. Now, personally, this is how I like to have a lot of conversations, but it is a little bit more difficult to always bridge that. So the easiest one you can always start with is you just change the meaning of things. That's all really reframes are. A lot of it is just you change the meaning of how they're viewing the world, right? You're reframing how they're viewing the world, right? They have a frame, a reframe, right? Bam. So here's an example. You show them how their future identity would handle this, right? This is changing logical levels. Do you feel like when you're a business owner, it requires risk? Why would you say that? Now, anytime you do reframe, okay, and you show them a different view of the world, again, you want to make it easy for them to be able to agree with you, number one. Number two, you always need to get them to defend that belief. So it's not only that you give them a new way of viewing the world, you need to get them to adopt that way of viewing the world. You don't want to get in the habit of just talking at people, get in the habit of just sermonizing. What this does is like, number one, you're just hoping what you're saying is like clicking. And number two, it just makes your sales calls go a lot longer because you're like speaking a lot more. Get them to actually articulate their beliefs, right? If you do that, again, people think by talking. So if they're accepting these beliefs and they're defending them, that's what they're thinking rather than you talking at them. You don't know what they're thinking. So that's why you're going to ask, hey, why would you say that? So this first part is a really easy truism. Like, hey, do you feel like, your future version of yourself, like as a business owner, you're going to need to take on risk? It's a truism that it's going to be very hard to disagree with. And then from there, it's like, okay, why would you say that? Okay, now, once we get to a shift of how they're viewing the world, whatever it is, then we need to attach a cost to how they used to view the world or their previous frame of the world. So not only do we want to give them a different view of the world, okay, and then just naturally, because it's a view of the world that will get them what they want, there's some pleasure attached to it. We want to assign some negative, right, pain to their past view of the world. So if we had to put a cost to it, what do you think that way of thinking has cost us? I would say, again, if you had to put a cost to it, people are more likely to come along with you, okay? So it's just a little something that I always put in there that makes it easier, again, for people to come along with you. Because if you say like, hey, what do you feel like that way of thinking has cost you? What you can run into a lot of times is, well, I don't know, bro. Right? That's why I'm here. I want to chat, but just bullshit. Well, if you had to put a cost to it, well, if I had to put a cost to it, I guess it would be this, right? Or if you had to think about it, what would it be, right? Little phrases like that, they sound so silly, but they work every time. And then from there, you want to do the math with them, time, money, freedom, what it actually is. So not only do we want there to be like pain in the vague sense of like, yeah, that's painful. We want it to be pain in the sense of it's tangible. They can actually see it. They can feel it. They can taste it. The reason we do that is because it makes it more real. And the more real we can make it, the more pain that there is, which means they're less likely to go back to their old way of thinking. So if you make it more tangible and you make sure you get their buy-in on the numbers, right? For example, if I'm selling you sales training, right? And I'm asking you, like, okay, like this way of thinking of not actually getting hands-on help, what do you feel like that's actually cost you in the past 12 months? We come up to a number of like, let's just say 100,000. I'm going to calculate the number out. And I'm like, hey, does that number sound right? I need your buy-in on the number. Like, okay, why does it sound right? Oh, it sounds right because of this, this, and this. It's like, okay, is that way of thinking worth keeping moving forward? No, why not? Again, I need you to justify it. So it's not only my assertions as a closer, mean jack fucking shit, but you as the actual prospect, what you think, what you say, that's what matters. So in a persuasion, it's always about how do I get the prospect to adopt and say the beliefs, not can I say the beliefs, right? Because that's just low tier. So pre-handling is step one. And then if we want to take it to the next level, which is going to be really attacking the identity. So I said like shifting the meaning is going to be the easiest, but the most solid way to shift beliefs is changing logical levels and get them to see that the person who they want to be isn't aligned with the way they view the world now. So that's why I'm real big believer in really attacking the identity level and creating urgency around that. Because without urgency, there's no motivation for them to move. So this is where elite closers separate themselves from everyone else. Okay, you can pre-handle objections perfectly, but if they don't feel urgency to change, like they don't buy. Okay, and most closers create urgency the wrong way. So if you're creating urgency with like limited time offers, it fails because it's creating external pressure, and most people understand that it's just straight bullshit. And I'm sure you as a salesperson, deep down, even if you try to fool yourself, you know it's bullshit as well. So that is going to come across in your micro expressions. People are smarter and more social than what you would actually think. So real urgency comes from a gap between their current identity and their future identity. So you want to make the cost of inaction about their identity, not about your opportunity. So at the end of the day, what you're selling is the person who they need to be and the person who they want to be to get everything that they want. Whatever it is you're selling, that is just a bridge in order to get there. So to create real urgency, the best thing to do is create urgency consequence around them staying the person who they have been for however long they've been in this situation. Okay. So example, what if you stay the person you have been for the rest of your life? How would that feel? Now, again, you got to make sure you get the tone down. Now, I'm just saying it, right? I'm reading it. But you want to make sure, again, you get a good limiting belief. You attach a cost to it. You get them to admit it's no longer worth them holding on to that belief. And then you drop the hammer of consequence, okay? There's some different things you can do in between that to make it more solid, but just this simplest version of like, well, what happens though if you hold on to that way of thinking and you keep being the person really you have been for the rest of your life? Like, how would that feel? Again, it needs to hit a bit of concern, but also a bit challenging as well. Obviously, when you ask these type of questions, they need to be custom to who you're talking to. So add in what their actual limiting beliefs are. Add into what their current identity is. Don't just use basic bitch generic questions, right? You'll get basic bitch generic answers, okay? Actually customize what you're saying to the people you're talking to. So the last part here is reading energy shifts and understanding language. So after you get down the pre-handling framework and then you really drill down the identity framework, okay, how to take both of those or just your entire sales calls to the next level is really mastering actually being able to read people and understanding limiting language and being able to fix both. So let me explain. When you're in discovery, the prospect is engaged, they're answering questions, you ask about their budget, and then they suddenly go quiet. But that silence, it's not random. It's a pre-handling opportunity that's showing itself in real time. But if you miss it, it shows up that I need to think about it. So if you're able to actually read people, understand exactly what they're saying and their language that they're using, you're able to actually see a lot of these beliefs that aren't going to be as explicit. And anytime you see a belief and you're able to shift it and help them see it from a different view or able to handle it, number one, it makes the end of the call so much more easy. Number two, you gain more authority, right? Because you understand them and you're able to lead them on a better level. So I'm always looking for, are there energy shifts or the languages that they are saying that I need to shift so I can gain more authority? And just at the end of the call, it's just so much easier to handle. So a couple things we need to look for. So most closers, they just listen to the words. Elite closers watch energy. When energy drops during discovery, it's your pre-handling opportunity. Ask immediately, hey, I noticed you got quiet after I mentioned X. Like, what's coming up for you? Each energy shift you catch early equals one less objection at the end. So this is a big thing that I see people a lot. Like they know like something shifted, but they don't actually ask like, hey, like what's going on? Hey, you seem a little bit hesitant over there. Like what's behind that? And if you do that, you'll flush out what the real things are. And the quicker and the more you flush out the real things are, this the easier time you're going to have in, the close just in general. So also understand, like we talked about before, people are made up of patterns and they tell themselves stories on why they are not where they want to be. So if you listen, you can pick it up on it and address it. And if you change the way that somebody speaks in their tone, their energy, but also in their language, you're going to be changing the way that they think. For example, the biggest patterns that I see that can hold people back is wishful language. Wishful language, it'd be nice, I would like to, I want to. So it's a dream, it's a wish, it's not real. So if somebody's talking to you and they're also talking to themselves about their dreams, right? About like, it's not tangible, it's not goals, they don't really think that they can achieve it. Then when they get to the end of the call, they're going to have more uncertainty because it's not real, right? It's fugazi, it's a fugazi, right? It's fairy dust. You know what I mean? So it's like, because it's not real, then they don't need to do things to really attack it, right? Like it's just a dream in their head. Now, ambiguous language, on the other hand, probably, I think, maybe. These are things that, again, if they're talking to you this way, they're talking to themselves. Like they're uncertain, they're unsure. And if they're unsure, when they're talking about their goals or they're talking about like how you think, if they think you can help them, then they're going to be unsure if they want to buy, right? It's just a pattern of thinking. So you need to address these very early on. Okay, emotional out language. This is a big thing that people will try to fool themselves into like, hey, things are not that bad. Okay, it's not that bad. I'll get there no matter what. Things are really good right now. So what is happening if somebody tells themselves like, oh, well, deep down, I don't even really want that. They're trying to remove the want and basically like they're lying to themselves and they're lying to you. Like a real easy example is if you talk to like, a fat out of shape guy and he goes, well, I don't like girls who look like models. I like girls who are thicker, right? Like that guy, he couldn't even talk to a model without catching a charge, right? But because of that fact, he dilutes himself to say he doesn't even want it because it is so much pain to realize that he actually does want it. But the amount of work it would take for him to actually achieve something like that is so vast that he doesn't even want to put in the effort. It's the same thing here. Somebody tells you their problems aren't that bad. There's not a lot of urgency to actually change something that's not that bad. Okay, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be shifted. And external language. We talked a lot about this previously. But again, if it's the economy, I don't have time, I've been burned before, so I don't pay for things up front. If things are outside of themselves, it's not their fault, bro. It's just the world. I'm a victim. Just give me things and allow me to just blame things that are not myself, right? They'll never get to their goals if they continue to blame the external, number one. Number two, they're never going to buy something because it's not their fault. So you're going to give them the tools, but it's not up to them. It's the external world. So we need to be able to get the external, turn it more to internal. So if we're able to actually address these things and hear these things and flush them out before we even get to the pitch and before we even get to objection handling, it will make your sales calls so much smoother. Number one, prevent most objections from even coming up in the first place. Number two, you'll gain a lot more authority. Number three, but if you do get objections, so much easier to overcome. Now, being able to read energy and understanding language, I would say that's probably the biggest thing that's going to separate good closers from elite closers, but it's also the hardest to master. And when you do master it, you're going to see a really big difference. Like Jonathan, who went from 8K to over 35K, and Peter went from 15K to 47K. The big issue with learning those things is there's so many variables. And the reason that they were able to get it so quickly, right, within 3 to 4 months is because they had somebody who was in their corner who's already taken so many sales calls to be able to really point out and show them exactly what they need to do, but it's also exactly what to think in those scenarios. So it's not only just knowing what to do, it's knowing what to think and also knowing how to execute. So if you want help to actually understand all these things in a more intimate one-on-one setting, check out the first link in my description. Otherwise, take what you learned today and actually utilize them on your sales calls. Let me know if there is a difference. I promise you, if you do it right, there'll be a massive difference. Leave your biggest takeaway in the comments, and I'll see you guys on the next video.